I study horses, beauty matched only by their strength.
So we're here with Xena. This is probably our 4th or 5th cycle with her. She had a pretty bad deep digital flexor injury, and we've been maintaining her with glue shoes. The injury is on her right leg that we're working on now. We try to get that one done before we move to the left one, just because she does get pretty uncomfortable. When I first started seeing her, her foot was very run forward. Her heels were under run. The balance of her foot was very much way in front of her center of rotation, which means basically that the balance of her foot was not balanced around the coffin joint, which is what we want. We want kind of a 50-50 or a 40-60 balance between the toe and the heel, and she was definitely 60 to 70% in front of the coffin joint, and then lesser than that in the heel. And what that does is it puts the weight of the bony column of the leg and basically the whole front of the horse on their heels, and so those heels are strained and weakened and run forward. And when you have that, there's more tension and strain on the deep digital flexor, along with all the other soft tissue in the area. So she had an injury to that area. So we've been helping her, one with the balance with the trim, getting that foot back under the center of rotation, and more of a balanced trim, and also giving her kind of an exaggerated wedge and ease of breakover to decrease the strain on her injury. And we've been using glue shoes for that just because of they're easily customizable. She has a funny shaped foot because of her years of imbalance, so the shapeability of the glue shoe is great. I also do a custom build with a fast setting glue on the bottom, so I can get more of an angle with it, and then I can grind it down so there's a nice easy breakover, almost like a clog but a bit more stable than a clog. So she's getting that easy breakover but can also reliably stand on this shoe. And then just a regular pad to give her some sole support and encourage some growth in that heel area. So we'll go over kind of more of the application process of the glue shoe. It's really not that hard once you get under it a few times. So Brennan just prepped the foot. Nothing too fancy. We do a nice, we top dress the foot gently like we do normally during the trim, and then we'll take a sanding block, get it nice and roughened and smooth around the whole thing, especially around the heels, and then we'll take a torch and just clean off the top of that hoof wall to get it ready for the gluing process. So we prep the top of the foot. So we get here, just give the bottom of the foot a good wire brush, make sure it's nice and prepped, no garbage underneath there. And then for her, I'll give her a break while I prep the shoe. So we have our CA glue and our prefix. So this is technically a super glue that will cure over time, but the activator gets it curing right away. In about 4 seconds, it's completely cured. And what this does is help me get the shoe on and prevent any shear force from moving the shoe, so I can put the foot back on the ground and then focus on the acrylic glue, getting that on nice and tidy. So this has been really great, so I don't have to depend on just the saran wrap around the drying acrylic glue from holding the shoe, because any movement kind of tears your bonds that you're trying to get with the acrylic glue. So this holds it on really nice. So once you're all set, make sure you have all your materials ready to go. Brendan has all of our acrylic ready for right after. Heavy bead along the end on each. And then once you get it on, you kind of have one good adjustment, and then it's set. So you place it on carefully, and you have your spray. Get the foot nice and wet, and then make sure you're centered kind of right where you want to be, and then give it a firm press, and you got about 20 to 25 seconds for it to cure totally. I mean, it's unmovable now, but in 20 to 25 seconds, it'll have a pretty good resistance to shear force. And by that, I mean this movement. So it will let me put the foot back on the ground. And this is really helpful for horses with like laminitis that can't hold their feet up very long. Instead of messing around, if you're trying to glue something, messing around with the saran wrap, you can put the foot back on the ground. So usually I'll give it a twist, looking good, and then just kind of help them place it slowly. And it's still not moving with any shear force. So those have a good amount of hold. I'll empty out a little bit, make sure the mix is good. And then I start at the heel, work my way forward. And then I usually put too much, but can always wipe off the extra. Then I usually just slowly let it up, making sure all the edges are nice and tidy. And then I'll wipe away my extra on my glove, making sure that all my edges are nice and covered. And then heel to toe. And then that sets the shoe back right where you want it. And then I'll start wrapping all the way around to get those cuffs nice and tight. And then just kind of repeat. I tend to overdo the saran wrap, but it's the one big thing holding the shoe in place while this cures, so I don't want any movement. And then I just give the cuffs a squeeze and make sure we're good. 5-10 minutes, that's pretty good to go. I err on the side of 10. So usually, sometimes with this, if it's a more involved setup, I'll work totally on one foot and then move to the next. Especially this, which with her injury, I get that one set so she can get some lift, so I can comfortably work on the next one. This one's kind of satisfying. Yeah. So the important part with wedging a horse is your whole shoe and your whole setup has to be behind the center of rotation. So if this is about the center of rotation, you see our breakover is about here and the rest of the shoe is way back here. You can imagine if this shoe is shifted forward and we had her wedged, all the pressure of the limb would be right down where that wedge is pushing up on the heels. Rather here, the heels are getting helped with this caudal relief here and the break over here. So you really got to focus on having these setups way behind the center of rotation. As you'd imagine, if this were forward, she'd be falling back on that. And that would put more pressure on the heels. So we're finished up. So simple setup, but accomplishing a lot of things. And she's gone from quite lame and sore to like quite serviceably sound. So her next goal is progressive turnout, challenging her lesion and injury a bit more, and then we'll get a little less intense with the setup as she gains a little more comfort in hoof structure. But small improvements. She's getting a lot of sole growth, a lot of good foot conformation. So we're making progress. Just with feet, slow progress is the name of the game. So you got to look out for the small details. But we're all pretty happy with our progress. Now she wants lunch.
I study horses, beauty matched only by their strength. I try and capture a little of that as I move on without your face. I study horses.